If you've been an avid viewer of YouTube in the last couple of years, you may have noticed a strange phenomenon on the platform that only occasionally rears its head. An anomaly that's so infrequent and transient that you might not even believe that you actually experienced it, much like spotting a Sasquatch far in the distance on some remote hiking trail. If you don't pay close attention to your recommended feed, then you may have never noticed it happening. But look a little closer, and you may eventually see a nameless video pop up. An upload that completely lacks a title, solely relying on its thumbnail to communicate its identity. Nameless videos have been springing up on YouTube since at least 2020, but they've become a more frequent anomaly in the last couple of years, and like I just said, it's one that's very transient, which is due to the inherent nature of a video that completely lacks a title. If one of these uploads surfaces in your feed and you don't click on it, you'll lose it forever. When a video doesn't have a title, it becomes impossible to search for. This almost leaves these bizarre clips in the realm of urban legend. You might see one day, not click on it, and then never find it again, with the whole experience living in your head as what you may perceive to be some sort of false memory. But regardless, these uploads are very real. They often depict unexplainable and sometimes disturbing content. Clearly, the ambiguity implied by a video not having a name is a very deliberate choice by these uploaders. Today, we're going to go through every corner of the nameless section of YouTube, starting with the most prominent example of this trend, and possibly the most mysterious as well. This grainy, low-quality video shows a person in a mask playing a haunting melody on the piano while staring off into the distance. It only lasts for a brief 44 seconds, but that was enough for it to leave a major impact. After being uploaded in April 2024, this untitled video would instantly go viral, finding its way into seemingly everybody's recommended feeds. I remember seeing this video on my homepage with this eerie thumbnail and complete lack of a title. I never clicked on it though, and the thought did enter my mind that maybe I just imagined it, but I didn't. It's a little surreal to be watching this a couple years later. This nameless video was put up by a channel called Zeppelin, and it's accumulated a massive 4.5 million views. It has no description, but it does have a location. The channel that put up this video wants to communicate to you that it was filmed in hell. Obviously, I don't believe this was taken in hell, but I do enjoy the idea of a YouTube video that's set in a non-tangible location that exists outside this plane of reality. It does pair nicely with the unsettling content of this video, along with the complete lack of any other information to accompany it. When reading the comments on this video, you'll notice a disconnect in the response people seem to have to it. Everybody seems to describe it as both calming and unsettling, two opposing feelings that you wouldn't really expect to be able to coexist. But keep this emotional paradox in mind, as it's going to be a reoccurring theme today. Commenters also mentioned that they mostly got here because this video popped up on everybody's homepage. I wouldn't be surprised if you remember this video appearing somewhere in your YouTube feed, almost like a dream everybody had in the same night. But why was this video springing up everywhere? Investigating the metadata more closely only brings up more questions. This video, unlike some of the others we'll look at today, truly doesn't have a title. It's not using a blank character or some other hack to make it merely look like it doesn't have a title. It actually doesn't have any name attached. This shouldn't be possible. When uploading a clip to YouTube, adding a name is mandatory. You can't simply upload a video that doesn't have a title. And yet, that's exactly what Zeppelin has done. At the time this video was put up, it was the only piece of content on this channel, which itself was created in 2020. It originally didn't have a description, but somewhere along the line, one would be written. It would simply state, "woman," which may offer a clue as to the gender of the person in the mask. Maybe looking at the video itself a little closer may offer some answers. It appears to be set behind the curtains of a stage, perhaps in a school gymnasium considering the tiling on the wall. You could surmise that this is a backstage piano that's normally used to provide music for whatever play or musical is being carried out on the stage that exists off camera. But hang on, something is off here. Take a look at the wall again. See that number? It's backwards. This video has been mirrored. It's a relatively inconsequential detail, but it's still odd nonetheless. Looking at that same spot on the wall, we can also see some power outlets, which appear to be Type C, possibly placing this video in Europe. But beyond that, there's not really much else we can uncover from this video. There's nothing to suggest any deeper mystery or narrative at play here, but that wouldn't stop internet sleuths from trying to find one. With this video popping up in so many people's feeds, it became a bit of a popular mystery. People wanted to find out why this video was everywhere. Was it a marketing stunt for some bigger project? Was it the entry point into a disturbing internet rabbit hole? Netizens would start digging. They'd fail to identify the song being played in the video, meaning it's either an original piece or just simply improvisation. They'd also try to identify the woman in the mask. One German-language TikToker known as Dunkelkammer would claim that this was all a project of Helenka CH, a Swiss comedian and performance artist who's known for playing the piano. She does appear in some videos wearing a black wig similar to the one in the Zeppelin video, but I think this connection is shaky at best. There's nothing to connect Helenka to Zeppelin beyond the fact that she's from Europe, plays the piano, and has worn a black wig in the past. The TikToker didn't offer any evidence either, merely stating that it could be Helenka. No, I don't think this is an elaborate project by an established artist, nor do I think there's any deeper meaning to this at all. I think the second video on this channel provides just enough context to explain this whole thing. Uploaded only a month after the first video, this second one, titled beardance.mp4, also doesn't have a description. And this time, the video's location is set to heaven. This clip proudly displays a person in a suit and bear mask doing a silly dance, accompanied by what's obviously improvised piano. The music starts off calm but gets more chaotic as the 35-second video goes on, enticing the bear to dance faster and faster until it can't keep up and ultimately collapses. You'll notice the tiling here matches the first video perfectly, and while it's dark you can't make out what appears to be some sort of cloth hanging above the tiles. Perhaps a curtain. You could surmise that this video was taken in front of the stage with the curtain fully drawn. I don't think Zeppelin is an elaborate art project, I think this is a result of some theater kids screwing around. The suit worn by the person in the bear mask is incredibly ill-fitted and looks very much like a costume you would see in a high school play. You could say the same thing about the dress worn by the piano player in the first video. I think Zeppelin is simply a student who uploaded a video that was just vague and visually interesting enough to capture people's attention, in turn creating a viral video that lacked any sort of purpose. I think it can be hard for internet sleuths to deal with situations like this. Everybody always assumes there's some deeper narrative at play or some information waiting to be uncovered. But sometimes the internet is just weird and it's nothing more complicated than that. That being said, there still is somewhat of a mystery here. Why did this video get shown to so many people? How is it possible to put a video on YouTube with a blank title? We're going to answer those questions today, but not quite yet. You see, Zeppelin is not the only channel on YouTube uploading unnamed videos. We're still at the entrance of this rabbit hole, so why don't we travel a little deeper? This video depicts a statue of an angel sitting alone in the middle of a cemetery in the dead of night. It appears to be lit by a bright flash originating from the viewpoint of the camera, which may suggest that it's a still photo despite all the jitter and VHS noise, which in turn implies that this is in fact a video of a static scene. The visuals are accompanied by the song A Faint Signal by Infinity Frequencies, who is a musician famous for their work in the broken transmission genre, a form of music that samples and loops very short snippets of commercial jingles and other lost pieces of forgotten TV and radio broadcasts. I can't play the song in this video for copyright reasons, but I have made a couple broken transmission albums myself, so what you're listening to now is my own take on this genre. Since the samples broken transmission tends to source from are very short, these songs often end up repeating the same few bars over and over again, almost creating a sort of drone, which thematically matches up nicely with this single unchanging scene in a graveyard. Just like that Zeppelin video, this upload was also put up in May 2024, and it too would quickly go viral. It's currently sitting at just under 5 million views. It has no title, and the description merely credits the song in the video. Almost every commentator is talking about how this clip just inexplicably popped up on their home screen, and once again, there's that talk of being unsettled and comforted at the same time. The video was uploaded by a channel called Somebody, and unlike Zeppelin, there's a lot more to uncover here. Their next few uploads would follow the same format. Broken transmission or other internet-based genre of ambient music plays accompanied by some liminal space. This video features an iconic piece by digital artist 918. It depicts a shopping cart in front of a bungalow in an American-style suburb, wrapped in a looming red dusky sky. It's a scene that feels familiar, but it's just uncanny enough to not feel real, as if it's a memory from a dream, rather than from your actual life. The next upload features an empty room that seems very familiar, doesn't it? Not in some liminal space anemoia, but rather like I've actually seen this space somewhere before. Do you feel like that as well? If you do, it's because this is a digital recreation of the room shown in the I Feel Fantastic video. It really takes on a different tone when that eerie mannequin isn't singing in the middle of it. It's like the owner just packed up and left, and the only thing left behind is the lamp sitting in the corner to light the room. It's like a reminder that even in the realm of iconic disturbing internet videos, all things will eventually pass. This is the gist of the first few videos on the Somebody channel. Untitled videos featuring liminal spaces accompanied by eerie internet ambient music. It's reminiscent of the sorts of liminal space compilation videos you would see a few years ago, but things would start to evolve as the uploads kept rolling in. This video starts off like the others, but there's something off about this one. The song credit that's usually in the description isn't right. It only displays 3 question marks and nothing else. The scene we're shown here is a grocery store in the middle of the night. Once again, it's a familiar setting presented in an unfamiliar way, which is the most effective method of evoking that liminal space feeling. The lights are out and the only illumination is coming from the strip lights on the dairy cooler. We can see some jugs of milk laying on the ground, as if somebody's been messing with the merchandise after the store closed, which could imply that we're not alone. You'll notice something new in this video. The movement isn't just isolated to VHS noise and jitter. There's actually dust floating around in this scene. This isn't just a still image anymore. As the video nears its end, the dust seems to get a little heavier, and then a figure very briefly comes into view, at which point the video completely cuts out. In a subsequent upload, we can see a CRT TV mounted on a column inside a completely empty carpeted room. The screen is only displaying static, but eventually, just for a fleeting moment, a face almost comes into view, but quickly disappears, being replaced by a piece of text.
Rapture is near.
The face pops up a couple more times, and just before the video cuts out, we get another title slide. Again, it's only on screen for a single frame, and it's very easy to miss.
Everything you love will die.
These are the first pieces of actual exposition we've gotten for this channel, but what does it mean? There's clearly a reoccurring theme of death, but before we start uncovering the narrative that connects all these videos, we need to keep going. Things only get more dynamic from here. We're no longer staring at a stationary scene. The same dust and VHS filter is here, but we're now moving through a cornfield in the middle of the night. We get a couple moody atmospheric shots of trees and grass only being lit by a light coming from the camera, until the video cuts out without leaving us much we can add to the story. But the same can't be said about the next video on this channel. We're now in what seems to be an empty hospital. It's not the middle of the night, and it doesn't appear to be abandoned, but there's still nobody here. As the scenes come and go, a floating light can eventually be seen at the end of a dark hallway. It begins moving through the walls and floors, as if it's trying to escape this place. The video cuts out abruptly, but the next upload appears to pick up right where it left off. We seem to be in the middle of some dilapidated eastern neighborhood on a gloomy, overcast day, maybe in Russia or northern China. The light now appears to be outside, floating aimlessly around the gray, rundown apartment buildings. The orb keeps rising, and in the final scene of the video, we can see several lights floating up towards the sky. The Somebody channel is showing us a post-rapture world, an empty earth only filled with the things we left behind. The white figure in the darkness, the bright orbs of light trying to escape mazes of hallways and buildings to find their way to the sky. You can easily label these as spirits or ghosts finding their way out of the human world and into whatever lays beyond. Liminal spaces are often presented as a sort of dream reality, places in between, empty settings that resemble the real world but are just off enough to disqualify them from being real. What better way to present liminal spaces than in a world that recently experienced a rapture? The Somebody channel is one of the more interesting art pieces I've seen on YouTube. It doesn't present you with an explicit and overbearing narrative. It merely shows you these calming but slightly disquieting videos that don't have a title. You can find an underlying story if you choose to, but you also don't have to. You can take these videos at face value, as what many commenters describe as an internet checkpoint. This is a concept that's actually been around for a long time. When I was a teenager, internet checkpoints were usually presented in the form of a vaporwave song, a genre featuring slowed down samples of sanitized corporate sounding music from the 80s and 90s, accompanied by some nostalgic imagery, like screenshots of Windows 95 or clips of some Nintendo 64 game. These internet checkpoints were kind of like the digital equivalent of a roadside lookout you might come across while making your way through a long car trip. It's an opportunity to stop whatever you're doing and just silently reflect for a few seconds, to experience a moment of mindful awareness in cyberspace. This trend never really died out, but it definitely lost a bit of prominence in the mid-2010s, likely coinciding with the decline in vaporwave's popularity. But the advent of liminal spaces and subsequently liminal space compilation videos brought the idea of an internet checkpoint back into the public consciousness. And in particular, the Somebody channel revived the trend with a newfound fervor. These videos are truly the perfect form of an internet checkpoint. They occasionally appear in your recommended feed, but without a title, they can't be searched. You can never consciously look for them. The only way to experience one of these checkpoints is to stop whatever you're doing and take a moment to soak it in. While the Somebody channel does indeed have a narrative, it's most widely known as a channel that publishes internet checkpoints. And with these videos garnering so many views, it's no wonder why other channels will begin to emulate this format. Another prominent user is this one, whom I can't actually name because they don't have one. Just like Somebody, they post nameless videos of liminal scenes, accompanied by various forms of internet ambient music, whether it's broken transmission or some other post-vaporwave subgenre. Some of these videos have a lot of views, with their most viewed upload having 1.5 million. This channel is not unique. Both the format and the motifs are a direct copy of Somebody, and there are several other channels that follow this exact design. Chances are if you've seen a nameless YouTube video pop up on your homepage, it likely comes from one of these Somebody copycat channels. You could even argue that Zeppelin unintentionally made an internet checkpoint. The creepy dark imagery, the calming music, it all fits the format. But you can't use the concept of an internet checkpoint to explain all nameless YouTube videos. There are corners of this strange world that don't quite fit that mold. Like all the others we've looked at today, the following video has no title, and it also centers around a song, but the content of this upload is quite different. I can't actually play you any of the audio here because it's copyrighted, but judging based on the visuals that are now on your screen, it probably wouldn't be very hard to guess what this music sounds like. This is a Vocaloid song, a popular genre of Japanese electronic pop music that utilizes synthesized vocals. The most popular figure in this genre is Hatsune Miku, whom I'm sure you've heard of. Hatsune Miku and some of the other popular Vocaloid artists aren't actually artists at all, and are instead more like products. Characters that were developed by a team of people working for a corporation. This Vocaloid song, though, isn't like that. This was indeed created by a single person, one that came out of nowhere and uploaded a nameless video that garnered 26 million views. While the content of this video and the music that accompanies it may seem lighthearted on the surface, it is in fact hiding something a little darker. Around 50 seconds in, the vocals abruptly stop, and long lines of text begin filling the screen.
January 8th, 2004, 11 p.m. It's funny. The train just wouldn't stop. It's finally stopped. Just what kind of place is this? I don't know of such a train station. I want to get out of here. No one is in this place. The distant sun is...
This ominous text definitely contrasts with the cheery sound of the song. It wouldn't be the first time an upbeat pop song randomly hit a dark message within its music video, but this example is far from random. On January 8th, 2004, a woman using her cell phone would start a thread on 2chan, the Japanese image board that 4chan was based off of. She tells the other Anons that she's currently riding a train, but something feels off. She always takes this train to work, and it usually makes a stop every 5 to 8 minutes. Today though, it hasn't stopped for 20 minutes, and there doesn't seem to be anyone else on the train with her. Anons question if she took the wrong train by accident. The OP doesn't seem to think so. She wonders if she merely missed her stop. Users speculate if something might have happened to the conductor, which prompts OP to walk up to the end of the car to check on him. Blinds are covering the window and she can't see inside, so she knocks on the door. But nobody answers her. One user asks if OP could look out the window to get an idea of where the train may be heading. She mentions that they just got out of a tunnel, which is unusual since this train never normally travels through a tunnel. As she's trying to get her bearings, the train stops at Kisaragi Station. She's never heard of this place before, but decides to get off anyways as she doesn't want to travel too far in the wrong direction. There doesn't appear to be anyone around. A couple users mention that they can't find any information about a so-called Kisaragi station on the internet. OP looks around the station for a schedule, but she can't seem to find one anywhere. She looks for a taxi, but again, there's nobody around. She decides to call her parents and ask if they could come pick her up, but they can't find any information about this train station either. At this point, OP starts getting a little nervous. Nobody seems to know just where she's ended up. Anons ask her to describe her surroundings. She says the station is in a rural area, surrounded by fields and mountains. She waits a little while longer and eventually gets a call from her father. He tells her that multiple people have been trying to track down where this Kisaragi station may be, but nobody can seem to find it. He tells her to hang up the phone and immediately call 110, Japan's emergency number. OP does just that. She connects with an operator, but they too can't find any record of a Kisaragi station. They get a little frustrated and accuse OP of making a prank call, which causes the already frightened caller to unnecessarily apologize. She hangs up, and after realizing that she's essentially out of options, she begins aimlessly wandering down the train tracks. She starts to hear the sounds of drums beating in the distance, far away enough that it could be easily mistaken as some auditory hallucination. It starts to grow in volume though, as if it's getting closer. The distracted OP falls and breaks the heel on one of her shoes. She calls home again. Her father says he's gonna call the police, but the sound of drums keeps growing closer. And Anon responds,
This is the end. The train and the station are gone. There's nowhere left to return to, no one to follow. The sound you hear is an illusion you're creating yourself. Run to the other side of the tunnel. If you stop, you'll be trapped between worlds, left to suffer.
OP gets off the tracks and notices a person in the distance. She says he has a gentle face, but the Anons in the thread seem wary of this stranger hanging around this empty train station in the middle of the night, warning her to stay away from him. She doesn't listen though, and approaches the man to tell her about her situation. He says there's a train coming soon, one that will eventually stop at a town which has a business hotel, and that he can take her to it. The train arrives and they get on it together. OP asks the man where they're headed, and he says, Hina. This is impossible. At the start of the thread, OP mentions that she was traveling through Shizuoka, which is far away from Hina, a tiny town at the foot of Mount Fuji. The OP ends the thread by stating the following.
We've been headed towards the mountains for some time. It really doesn't strike me as a place where trains would go. He stopped talking to me entirely. My battery's almost run out. Things are getting strange, so I think I'm gonna make a run for it. He's been talking to himself about bizarre things for a while now. To prepare for just the right time, I'm gonna make this my last post for now.
After this, OP would never be heard from again. Kisaragi Station would very quickly become an iconic piece of Japanese internet lore, in a similar manner to Slender Man here in the West. A movie would be made about it, and it would pop up as a motif in various pieces of Japanese internet art, including this song. While it may not be obvious if you're not familiar with this story, all of the lyrics to this song are about Kisaragi Station, not just those strange lines of text that briefly appear on the screen. The song is not only nameless, but the channel name is also intentionally left blank. According to the Vocaloid wiki, the creator of this song writes music about urban legends that originate from 2chan, which I guess makes the whole anonymous angle of their internet presence a fitting trait. Most of this artist's music videos are untitled, and many of them have millions of views, making this the most well-known corner of the world of nameless YouTube videos. So far, everything we've looked at today has been like this. A highly viewed YouTube video without a name that centers around music in some way. It's sort of weird that every nameless YouTube video seems to match this format, despite the three areas we've touched on being completely disconnected from each other. So for our next topic, we're going to explore something a little different, and much more unsettling. What you're currently watching is a viral video from 2010, titled, "Let Me Hear Your War Cry." It's a few frames taken from the movie Full Metal Jacket, with mannequin faces superimposed onto the characters. Even 16 years later, this clip is still pretty disturbing, and it's one of the earliest examples I personally remember watching of a bygone genre of creepy internet content. Horror shitposting. This niche is a form of horror media completely unique to the internet. Before the world went online, horror was only represented in the traditional forms of legacy media. Movies, TV shows, books, short stories, etc. But the feeling horror gives you doesn't necessarily have to be tied to some larger work of art. You don't need to watch an entire movie to experience the emotions of anxious excitement that a good work of horror can evoke. And the internet was the first time in human history where horror began to detach itself from larger works of traditional media. The exact same thing happened with comedy. With the advent of online video sharing, you didn't have to open a newspaper to the funny pages or watch an entire episode of a sitcom to get a laugh anymore. You could just load up YouTube and watch a 30-second viral video that packaged the experience of comedy into its barest form. Without the guardrails of traditional media, funny YouTube videos could turn up the absurdity dial way higher, which oftentimes made internet comedy much more effective than whatever you would find on TV. The same effect can be seen with horror shitposting. Horror works best in situations with low context, when you don't really know what's going on. The more you explain things, the less scary they become. A video like "Let Me Hear Your War Cry" works perfectly because there's no context at all. You're simply thrown into an absurd scene and given no clues to what's going on. This is the whole idea behind horror shitposting. There's no narrative in these videos, just mysterious, surreal, and frightening imagery that defies any and all logic. It's horror in its purest form. And our last topic today may just be the most effective implementation of this concept. If this video looks familiar, it's because I actually covered it a couple years ago. But today, we're gonna dive a little deeper into this channel, which is called User9472. Like everything we've talked about today, this upload has no title. The description simply reads, Yelena in the hallway. As you've just seen, the video consists of a woman repeatedly jumping in an agitated manner, whipping her head to the side in an uncomfortably extreme way. It's pretty easy to tell that she's not actually jumping multiple times, and the video is almost certainly cut up with slowed down and sped up parts looping. Though the woman is in full view at all times, because of the slow shutter speed of the camera creating a significant amount of motion blur, we never actually get a clear look at her face. It does seem like her mouth may be smeared with red lipstick, although like I said, it's pretty blurry so it's hard to tell. This is a perfect example of horror shitposting. A nameless video showing a surreal scene that doesn't really make any sense. And that's the gist of User9472's channel. All these videos are untitled clips that are simply unexplainable. Some of them are pretty freaky, like this one showing a tall humanoid figure standing unmoving in someone's driveway. Or this one showing a faceless figure in a wedding dress positioned in the middle of a field, accompanied by an ominous drone that goes on for almost 7 minutes. Some of these videos, however, are just absurd without being scary. like this one that shows a person in a wig covered in various sheets and tablecloths miming a silent conversation to the camera for 30 seconds. A similar upload shows a man wearing a balaclava and a whole bundle of flashing Christmas lights while some distant speaker faintly plays an old opera recording. It's not creepy, it just doesn't really make any sense. In my original video on user9472, we found the origins of several pieces of media they sourced from. It's clear a lot of the imagery here isn't original and is merely mutated versions of other images and videos found on the internet, which is fairly typical for the horror shitposting genre. But you can't say that about everything here. Those two shrouded figures, for example, are both original videos, along with the woman jumping in the hallway. In this video, which has since been deleted but once showed a bunch of masked figures standing around a living room in what appears to be a house in southern Europe based on the furnishings and fixtures. The conclusion I reached in my original video was that user9472 was likely an art student, perhaps a woman who appears in multiple videos on the channel. But one thing I didn't account for back in the day were the other deleted videos that were once on the channel, which may suggest a different and more disturbing conclusion. This 15-second clip shows a man rubbing something red on his stomach, maybe jam or perhaps even blood. The video is shaky and low quality, and unlike the other videos on user9472's channel, it's not really scary. It's just creepy. Still though, it's not terribly out of place when considering everything else on this channel. The same cannot be said about this next video, which paints this user in a completely different light. This upload has been deleted now for about 4 years, and it likely didn't garner much attention before being removed. It's 14 minutes long, and just like the thumbnail suggests, this video shows a man's feet. It starts with a sign being held up, Giorno Uno, Italian for Day 1. I'll likely have to censor this, but we can see a man holding a lit candle much too close to his feet and dripping wax onto them. This would absolutely hurt a lot. Another sign is held up, Day 3. This time the man pours an entire bowl of salt over his feet in the same areas he held the candle, which are not currently healthy patches of skin as you could imagine. He then dumps a bunch of ice cubes over the salt to increase the effect of whatever sensation he's trying to create by doing this. Day 4, he's covering his wounded feet in an unknown clear substance, maybe honey, although it's hard to tell. Day 5 rolls around and he's covering his feet in salt again, this time making sure to coat the underside of his feet as well. Day 6 is a little different. It involves no substances. Instead, he covers the hairy parts of his shins in duct tape. Beside him lays a pair of scissors, but he never actually shows what he does with them, because this is where the video abruptly ends. User9472 isn't merely a shitpost horror channel. Nobody would do something so extreme to themselves solely for the sake of making a creepy video. There's clearly something else at play here. There's been a theory floating around for a while now that this channel contains fetish content, and while I didn't necessarily agree with that back in 2024, I'm certainly more inclined to agree with it now. The foot video is genuinely one of the more messed up things I've seen on the internet, and by the way, it too was presented without a title. We've now explored every corner of the untitled side of YouTube. Unexplained videos, art projects, horror shitposting, and actual uncomfortably disturbing content. That's about all there is to see. But there still is one question we haven't answered. Why are so many people uploading videos without titles? Logically, it doesn't make much sense. Why remove the only opportunity you have as a YouTuber to put a piece of text in front of a potential viewer? Surely it can't be a good idea. Right? To really see the effects of having an untitled video on YouTube, we're going to run a little experiment. I'm going to take one of my own videos and we're going to remove the title from it for a little while just to see what happens. The video that I've chosen to do this experiment on is my most recent one, Horizon FBI Database Part 2. There's a few reasons why I've chosen that video in particular. For one thing, it's fairly recent and it's still getting like a decent amount of views. I put it up around 3 days ago and it's still getting like 800-900 views an hour. And it's been pretty steady. There hasn't been any like wild fluctuations in views for the last day or so. So any change I make to the title or thumbnail will result in an immediate change to the amount of views coming in, like, you know, per minute, per hour, whatever. Also, thematically, it does fit that video quite well. That video is about people who disappeared. So to have the title disappear after a couple days, it does make sense as like an artistic choice for this particular video, more so than any other video on my channel. So I've got YouTube Studio loaded up and I'm going to remove the title. All right, it's gone. We're replacing it with something called a zero width joiner character. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically a blank ASCII character. ASCII characters are basically like letters, numbers, just pieces of text on a computer, right? There are ASCII characters that aren't letters or numbers or punctuation, whatever. And this one in particular is just a blank space, basically. It's not the same as like a space on your keyboard, but it's a character that doesn't represent anything in a web browser. A lot of the videos we've looked at today, they don't actually have a blank title. They're actually using this zero width joiner character. And that's what I'm using too. So it's not technically a blank title, but to the end user, that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like there's no title at all. So I've got to paste it in and oh man, I kind of feel like this is a bad idea. I feel like I'm going to hit save and the views are just immediately going to drop. I mean, why wouldn't they? Why would I remove the only piece of verbiage I can put in front of a potential viewer? They're not going to know what the video is about and why would they click on it? This experiment is just like an immediate disaster and the views just completely tank right away. I will put the title back because I don't want to lose income. You know, I am a middle-class content creator. We're not all Mr. Beast out here. But anyways, I'm doing it for you guys. We're going to see what happens. There, I hit save. Let me just check on my phone to make sure that it worked. Oh man. Yeah, there you go. No title. Oh boy. Okay, we're gonna wait about a day and we're gonna see what happens. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in a little bit. All right, it's about a day later now and I gotta say, the results are pretty unexpected. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I was a little skeptical of this whole thing. Removing the only piece of verbiage that you can put in front of a viewer just kind of seems like a bad idea. I just felt like as soon as I removed that title that the views were going to drop. That's not what happened. Almost like right after removing the title, the views started to climb. And about an hour later, the views per hour had almost doubled. It went up from like 800 or 900 to almost 1600 or 1500. I don't remember the exact number. It increased by quite a bit. I got a little concerned that maybe I was clickbaiting my viewers in some way and they weren't actually watching the video. So I checked the comments. I was getting quite a few comments from people who had clicked on the video because they saw that it didn't have a title and they were confused at that. But I was mostly just getting normal comments, like just people commenting on the video itself and not even mentioning the fact that the video had no title. So they weren't just clicking on it, they were actually watching it too. Now to really test that out, I ran something called an A/B test. If you're not familiar with that, an A/B test is a tool that YouTube gives us to be able to run multiple titles and or thumbnails at the same time. And it ranks which one does better on YouTube. If you've ever seen me like switch titles or thumbnails a lot in the first day, it's not that I'm like switching them manually. I'm probably just running an A/B test. It's actually pretty common for YouTubers to use this tool now because it just works really well. Now, the important thing with an A/B test is that it's not actually testing how many clicks a title or thumbnail gets. It's testing the amount of watch time each option garners. This is a really important distinction. Because if it was only testing for clicks, then it would be basically testing which option is the most effective clickbait. But if you're testing for watch time, it doesn't really matter how many clicks any option gets. It only matters if that click actually leads to watch time. So if I ran A/B tests and people were clicking on the untitled version of my video and they weren't watching it, it would flunk the A/B test. That's not what happened. The untitled option, the A/B test, got 20% more watch time. That's crazy. If you're a YouTuber, you'll know that when you run these tests, you'll probably get like maybe 5 or 6% more on one option if you're lucky. If you're really lucky, maybe you might even get like 10%. 20%? I've never heard of an option getting 20% more watch time on an A/B test before. And every other YouTuber I talked to about this, they hadn't seen that happen either. So clearly, removing a title from your video is a really effective way to get people to watch your content. Now, I don't think this would work in every niche. The fact that my video has like a kind of creepy thumbnail is probably helping me, and the fact that like I am a somewhat well-known YouTuber in the horror niche, that's probably also helping me as well. There's a level of trust viewers have in my content. If I was just a nobody doing this, it might not work as well. Then again, there's a lot of small channels getting a lot of views using this method as well. So yeah, a new YouTube meta just dropped. Just remove the title from your video and people will watch it. So there you have it. Removing a title from your video can actually be an incredibly effective way to get views. Considering how 3 out of the 4 channels we've talked about today have videos with millions of views, you could easily see why people would want to jump on this trend. And I won't be surprised if in the future you'll only see more and more videos popping up on your homepage that don't have a title. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end and you're not subscribed, consider hitting that button because you'll be telling YouTube to recommend you more videos like this one, not just made by me either. If you want to follow me outside YouTube, I've got a Twitter that I've been fairly active on recently. And last but not least, I hope you all have a great night.